Whenever you're giving a presentation, you're going to want to think about how you're going to rehearse. I'm thinking here about presentations potentially for assessed presentations at university, presentations that you might give in a seminar, presentations that you might film, but also presentations later on for job interviews. It makes sense to follow the same format for your rehearsals. For most people, 6 is about the right number. It allows you to be well prepared for your presentation, but not to start getting bored with the material, so you don't come across as jaded, as if you've seen it far too many times. Each of the slides for the rehearsals is quite dense, so what I'm going to do in this screencast is just give you an overview of what you're aiming to achieve in each of the rehearsals. Rehearsal 1 is likely to be a bit muddled because it's your first full run through very often, and all you're doing is trying to make sure you have enough material for the time allowed. That is 17 to 18 minutes worth of material for every 20 minutes of presentation. You might be using cards, but you might be using a full set of notes or a script that you've prepared. This is just trying to work out the timing, but it's crucial that at the end of this rehearsal you make either a reduced set of notes or a reduced script, so you remember what it is that you're going to cut out. Usually people have too much material for a presentation. In your second presentation, you'll have thrown away those full notes or scripts. You're just working from your reduced notes now. You're trying to make sure, does it make sense, does it hold together, because you would have cut things out. The crucial thing about this rehearsal is that you move away now from typed up notes or a script. And for most students that means producing a set of prompt cards with just a few key words on each prompt card to help you to get through your presentation. In rehearsal 3, you are really starting to hone your performance now. This is your third time with the material. Yes, it's probably changed during that time, but what you're doing is to think about, how is my audience going to respond to this? You've got the chance now to think about how your material will be received. You may already have made your slides, but if you haven't made them, this is the time you would make your slides, because you know exactly the material you'll be delivering during your presentation. And if you've already done some work on your slides, then this is where you might finesse them and just make sure they're perfect. And again, you've got to do some more work at the end of this rehearsal, which is to make briefer prompt cards. In fact, it may be at this point that you choose just to prompt yourself from your slides. That'll be your judgment call based on how complicated the material is and how full your slides are. So as you go through here, you might want to think, am I ready to make that decision, perhaps to move away from prompt cards? Some students always use prompt cards to present, and that's fine. The audience doesn't notice. Moving on to rehearsal 4, what you're trying to decide is, do I need the prompt cards? Don't I need them? How do my slides fit? But also, and this is the crucial thing in this rehearsal, you want to be thinking, does the timing and the flow of this work well for the overall rhythm of the presentation? So as you go through, you're going to leave plenty of time when you go to each next slide, look at the slide, give the audience, your imaginary audience, time to look at the slide with you, look back at your imaginary audience and carry on talking. So it's slightly about timing, but it's more about, do you have enough slides? Are there going to be too many that confuse you? Not enough to support you and your audience? So that's what you're aiming to produce. By the end of rehearsal 4, you're not going to be doing an awful lot of reworking of the material. You just should by now hopefully feel confident that what you have will work on the day. Rehearsal 5 in effect is your final working rehearsal. That is, you're not expecting to make lots of changes here. What you're doing is making sure you put the gloss on the presentation. So by the end of this one, you're going to feel confident, ready, you know it works to time, and you know you sound as good as you want to sound in your rehearsal. And you may feel now, well, haven't I done everything I need to do? Well, yes, you have, almost. Rehearsal 6 is your last minute rehearsal. Ideally on the day of the rehearsal, it's perfect if you can get into the room where you're going to be giving the presentation. It may be this point that you actually want to ask a few friends or your peers to sit and listen to this final rehearsal just to give you a bit of confidence, but be careful, make sure they only say very positive things. So it's a way just to remind yourself of what you want to do. Particularly if you prepared your rehearsal very well in advance. This last rehearsal allows you to do that. So you know it's in the bag, you know it's there, but you have this last rehearsal to get it fully back into your head before you go on, hopefully later that day, to give your final presentation. I'd suggest that you try this out. Try the 6 rehearsal format and see how it works for you. Because if you know that you can be confident using it with one form of presentation, when you move on to other situations in which you have to present, you'll have the confidence that comes from knowing, I've done this before, it worked last time, it's going to work again this time.